Wings of Eagles, I Will Fly. That's a great song. That is our theme song for this month as we are looking at life today and how to live in as authentic and real spiritual people in a very real world of great chaos and great nonsense going on all around us. So in that spirit, I welcome you to the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, where I remind you that such is the nature of life, that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. You're the opportunity, and so am I, and so it is. All that life wants is a chance to appear as you, in you, through you. And I would add to that, in your very highest and best version of yourself. That one that you long for, that one that you know is emerging from within you at every minute, all the time, as you reach toward that feeling, that goal, that sense of connection. Because we are a place that celebrates you, that believes in you, and that believes in all humanity to bring that truth within us out into the open and out into our lives. We celebrate you, we honor you, we recognize that whoever you are and however you identify yourself is right and good for you in this moment. So we honor it. We recognize you as an expression of the divine showing up in physical form. You're God's opportunity to be something unique and special. And in that uniqueness and that specialness, find it, celebrate it, live it, do it. However you identify yourself, whether it's gay, straight, non-binary, whatever your sexual understanding of yourself, whatever your sexual identity for yourself, all of those things, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your race, we celebrate all of it because we celebrate you as an individual expression of the divine. To understand more of what we believe and why we believe it or what we believe about life, I'd like to read to you our Declaration of Principles. These are the principles on which we stand and teach. I believe in one God, one absolute power and first cause to all things. I believe that this power is perfect love and creates out of it a desire to express love. I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience. I believe in the unity of all life, in the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all. And so it is. And I would just like to say those aren't just empty pie in the sky things that we read every week. We really believe that. I really believe that. And I built my life on practicing those principles. So we have folks in this ministry, in this program, who have spent their lives as well building a life around these principles. These folks are folks who studied extensively, who discovered that by understanding these ideas and putting them to work, they have come forth and come forward into a greater expression of life. They've transformed their lives. We call them practitioners. We license them because they've also demonstrated they have the ability to do this work for other people and to work with other people in assisting you, actually, and them in finding a greater expression of life. Today, we have one of our practitioners, a wonderful practitioner with us, who will share with you some thoughts, some quotes, some ideas, and then will lead us in an affirmative prayer, which is the main power mode that we use for changing our lives and changing the world. So I'm very excited to introduce to you Barbara Guillory.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Bob. Very glad to be here and for the opportunity to bring the treatment this morning. I've had a wonderful week. One of the events that took place in my life on Thursday, I had the opportunity to give testimony at the Senate hearing here at the state capitol. And it was how we can advocate for down payment for people looking to purchase a home. So there are people that would like to purchase a home, however, may not have a down payment. But I was fortunate enough to speak in front of the Senate to give them testimony on how this can improve the lives of people. So I was glad to have that experience at the Capitol this week. We'll see where it goes. Now, I want to focus this morning on the tragedy that we have all experienced, the 9/11, and we lost about 3,000 lives during that time. And that loss goes beyond those 3,000 people because they had families, people that knew them, they had jobs, they had co-workers, they had lives. So it was felt throughout the world. So when we have tragedies, how is it that we should deal with the tragedy? As America, there has been tragedies after tragedies after tragedies. But how do we deal with that in our lives? Because we are impacted by these tragedies. Most recently, not too long ago, it was the death of George Floyd. It was a tragedy that was felt all across the world. But I ask again, how do we deal with the tragedy, because it's now part of our experience? Right now, we're continuing to deal with the pandemic. It is a tragedy. It is felt all over the world. And I ask a question again, how is it that we deal with the tragedy? This morning, the message is about how we transcend. How are we included? I want to share with you a quote that Dr. Bob has shared. I was very inspired when I heard this particular quote. As we dive deeper into the understanding of who we are, we come to recognize that we are beings created in love and connection. When we're able to realize who we are, when we're able to realize our connection, when we're able to realize that we have within us what's needed to connect, it gives us a tool, it gives us a way, it gives us a practice, if you will, on how we deal with the tragedy. This morning, I would like to share with you in the treatment how we connect with spirit to experience love. So as we center ourselves, we come to a space of quietness, we come to a place of peace. We come to a place of magnificence. We come into a place of awareness. We are made aware of the magnificent and the unfolding of this universe. And as I myself am made aware of this wonderment of the universe, I sense who I am. I get an idea of who I am. I get insight of who I am. I'm made aware of what that unfoldment is made of. I get an idea of what I am made of. I get an idea of the strength, of the love, of the presence that I too am part of. And it is out of this awareness, out of this knowing, out of this being, out of this experience, we connect with spirit to create an experience of love. And as I look on any situation, whether it is the pandemic, whether it is the storms, whether it is the flooding, whether it is death, whether it is the pandemic, I connect with spirit to create an experience of love. By my connecting with Spirit, I am able to create the experience of love for myself. And in creating this experience of love with Spirit, I can now bring love to any situation where there is an absence of love. The tragedy of 9/11 can now be experienced in a different way, bringing love to the people that were directly impacted, bringing love to the people that were indirectly impacted, bringing love to the people surrounding our city, our nation, our world, our universe. It is how we connect with Spirit that we can create an experience of love, giving this experience to all those around us. It is this wonderful, wonderful knowing, this wonderful, wonderful knowledge, this wonderful, wonderful opportunity that we have to create with Spirit the experience of love. And as we go about our week, we can know without a doubt, as we connect with Spirit to create an experience of love, we can be loving in the face of tragedy. We can be loving in the face of there being an absence of love. It is this knowledge that we are so thankful for, in knowing how it is that Spirit can express through us as love. We give thanks for this wonderful, true experience of love, being able to connect with the Spirit, being able to know the love of Spirit that is present within us. For this experience, we give thanks, and so it is.
There's a new church on the horizon, made of light, not of stone, calling out to all creation, you are not alone. Lions and lambs, saints and sinners, best of friends, enemies, woman and man, losers and winners, they are all in you and me. We are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Oh, and the cold, there are faces hidden by the wind and rain. Hold out your hand, someone will take it and bring you home again. Yes, we are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Around the world tonight, all the fires are burning, tears are falling from the sky. Still the world keeps We are one heart, one soul, one dream we share together. We are all apart. Yes, we are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part of one heart. Oh, we are one. Yes, we are all a part of one heart.
Wow. This song fills my heart and makes my eyes leak a little bit. It's really wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, Barbara. I really loved what you said and what you did in terms of sharing and discussing this world we are living in right now and what we're all having to look at and face and make choices about how we respond. I'd like to share a story with you that I first heard in college. One of my most important mentors from that period of time, I was a good Baptist at the time. His name was Carlisle Marney. And he said this, he told the story, and you've heard it before probably. It's a story of a little bug. Little bug flew in the window of a house. Excuse me. He flew in the window of a house and he landed on this very elaborate carpet. Probably a Persian rug of some sort. And as he landed on this patch of blue. This patch of blue color. And as the bug sat there in the middle of the blue, he thought, wow, it's kind of grim and dark in this space, in this place. He started feeling a little sad and a little blue. All he could see in any direction was blue. He decided, I don't think I want to stay here, so he began to crawl. And he crawled off of the blue patch onto a bright, fiery red one. And all he could see in any direction was red. These words somehow are being choked up. Must be important. So as he crawled off of the blue and onto the red, he discovered suddenly that he was very angry. All he could see was red. And you know what they say when you see red, that usually means you're not remembering or thinking too clearly, but you're only feeling your rage or your anger. And that anger just got bigger and louder and bigger, and all he could see was red and angry and red and angry. And he started stomping around on this red spot, this red patch. And as he stomped around on it, he suddenly stomped his way right off of the red and onto the yellow. And suddenly he was surrounded by yellow, sunshine and light. His anger dissipated and he began to see and only see yellow in all directions. And that felt sunny and bright and joyful. And he began to dance. Love that dance. Love that light. Loved that feeling. And as the yellow permeated him, he suddenly remembered, I can be in light and I can fly. That's how I got here. Duh. And so he spread his wings and he flew and he lifted himself above the yellow. And suddenly yellow wasn't all he saw anymore. Instead, he saw the blues and the reds and the yellows and the browns and the greens and all of the colors that made that rug the beautiful work of art that it really is and really was. And he was not bound by any one color or bound by any one expression, and instead was awed by the complex beauty of nature and of life and of rugs. Now, this is an expression in the story of our whole topic today. The topic today is transcend and include, which sounds very, I don't know, maybe esoteric and disconnected. But the truth is, it is what life is really all about right now. And what we're all called upon to do, which is to transcend our current moment, to transcend, not to ignore, not to pretend it didn't exist. Because you noticed as the bug flew, he still saw all of those colors. But to transcend our stuckness in the current moment and rise in mind and consciousness and vision and view to a greater view, a greater idea, a greater seeing, a greater recognition of the world around him. You know, we say at the beginning of this, we celebrate who you are and the world in which you live and how you understand yourself, and we absolutely do. But we also invite you to rise above that and see a bigger view of yourself that perhaps you hadn't thought of until you got involved in some of these thoughts and teachings. And as you rise and as you expand and see a bigger view and vision of yourself and bigger view and vision of the world, it automatically and includes everyone. In a little bit, we're going to get to that recognition and honor, but let's wait. Right now, I want you to get this idea that rising to a bigger view, to a bigger version, to a bigger expression is automatic. It's in you. You're designed for it. You know, every religion talks about the call toward God, to be recognition of some greater power within ourselves. I love that song and the Church of Light. That's just beautiful for all creation. And that's not a church bound by politics, bound by location, bound by even by the name church. It is that something more that we're all pulled to and lifted toward and guided to. It's in our nature for that to happen. And so it happens. And so we go forth and forward and we grow. The first law of life is a law of growth. I've heard that as long as I've been in these teachings. Because growth automatically means expanding into something more, into something greater, into something bigger than what we were before. Something deeper. Growth is not just about getting up there and loud. You know, you grow a big tree, you got to grow deep roots to hold that tree in place. So transcendence means transcending into greater and greater expressions. Interesting. So Barbara talked about the tragedies and the things that are facing us right now. Yesterday was both a day of honoring and recognition of what happened 20 years ago in this country, and a great, deep reminder of the sadness that I felt right after that. Because, you know, spiritual truth doesn't take a vacation because circumstances change. Spiritual reality does not become something different because we want it to or because it doesn't easily fit what's happening in the world. And I remember myself very well. I knew exactly where I was, as probably most of you do who were alive 20 years ago, where you were when 9/11 happened, when the buildings came down, when the situation And for the very first time in the life of the world, the whole world was focused on one event in one country. That had never happened before while the event was happening. And this happened within minutes after that event. I was on the West Coast. I was at LAX at a conference. Interestingly, a peacemaking conference between two organizations that were coming together to begin the process of building one organization. And the towers came down. We turned our meeting into a prayer meeting for anyone who wanted to come in from the hotel, because we were quarantined. We couldn't leave, or no one else could come in to the hotel at the airport. It became a prayer time and a prayer session. But I remember then thinking, with great sadness, we were about to launch into a really difficult time for our country and for the world. In years before that, there was a time where, you may remember, we declared, the American government declared a war on poverty. And it was a big deal. It was in all the headlines. It was what, a lot of structures went into place to make that happen. And there were a lot of things happening to do war on poverty. And here we are many years later, and poverty is still a greater problem now than ever in this country. It's certainly a greater problem in the world. As those who have get more and those who have not get less, and all of the systems seem to be developed and worked out so that continues to be the case. And is supported by it. I won't get on that soapbox. This is not a political statement. This is just a reality of what spirituality says. What we know from spiritual life is that whatever we put our attention and focus on and push against and try to stop with all of that energy is what will multiply and grow in our lives. Got no choice. Spiritual life says that's how it has to be. If you're putting your focus on fighting something, if you're putting your focus against something, it's going to be bigger and bigger in your life. After that was what? The war on drugs. Remember that? And we went into this big program of, catching people in other parts of the world and putting them in prisons and burning their drugs and doing all this and that. And the more we fought it, the bigger it got. Until now, we're in a world where prescription drugs that people legitimately get from their doctors are the biggest source of drug addiction. One of the biggest sources, not the only one, but one of the biggest sources of drug addiction and death in this country from drug issues. So the more we fought against that, the bigger it got. And then we had the war on terrorism that started 20 years ago. And it has, yes, we've caught some of the villains and we put them in their graves as well as in prisons. And we've worked hard to bring that whole shift and change about. And we've left Afghanistan 20 years later, and we turned it right back over to the people that were there in charge that we thought we had to defeat. Now, I'm not making anybody's choices wrong. I'm not blaming any government or any party. I'm saying there's a spiritual principle underneath all of this that says the harder you fight something, the more you invite it to grow in your own life. That's what I want us to get. And terrorism is a bigger issue in this country right now than it's ever been. And it's not coming from Afghanistan or the Middle East. It's coming from within our own ranks, our own people, our own citizens, where families are split apart because they can't talk to each other anymore. Because you can't disagree without making the other one not only wrong, but emotionally, spiritually, forever wrong, without being a source for attack and fear. Terrorism is now a big issue in our country because we don't know. We don't operate in the larger world, at least not yet, from the awareness of spiritual principle that says, push against it, fight against it, it's going to grow. And I find this sad. I was depressed for months after 9/11 because I just saw this coming, as did many spiritual people and spiritual leaders. Not because I'm some brilliant somebody, because I understand the principle and how it works. So there's 2 or 3 things I want to say about this really quickly first, before we go into some other ideas. And one of those is that nothing is more powerful for canceling out all of that process and for moving us out of that sense of the growth of that which we don't want than taking that first big step of forgiveness. Not of them, but of ourselves. Forgiving myself for getting so caught up in the situation, so caught up in my anger and my resentment and my wanting to hurt and destroy. If that happened to you or happens to you around any issue, you got to start by forgiving yourself for that and letting it go. Letting it go. Forgiveness means giving forth. In other words, I'm trading forth, giving forth my anger and resentment for peace and love and the joy of life that is deep within me. One of my heroes and many of our heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., spoke of the beloved community. Now, he didn't coin that phrase. The phrase was actually started earlier than that by a theologian, Josiah Royce, who founded the Fellowship of Reconciliation. Dr. King joined that, and then later Dr. King used that term and took it to the world in a way that Josiah never did. And when Dr. King talked about the beloved community, this wasn't some airy-fairy idea out there like, let's think about it and dream about it. No, this was a concrete result of spiritual practice and spiritual principles, including nonviolence. The beloved community was a place where all people together can benefit from the economic strength of the world and the resources that are available all over the world. There's lots of resources for all of us, and they're available to everyone in the beloved kingdom. It was also the idea that the beloved community, not kingdom, would be a place where poverty and hunger and those kinds of problems would be eliminated because we would see one another as brothers and sisters. It would be a world in which we would no longer just step over the homeless person and keep walking and leave them to suffer with whatever they were suffering on the sidewalk. Where conflicts were still a real part, because conflicts always are. We're human. But they resolve peaceably, where violence is never considered a possibility for solving anything. You know, violence erupts when people feel powerless to do anything else. If you look at power and freedom and the way that all juggles back and forth, Rollo May did some beautiful work around that a number of years ago. But he said, and I think he was right, that the violence erupts when people do not feel they have any other recourse, where they're no longer, their words have no power, their desires have no power, where they have no power, and the only thing left is to fight. Whether that's in a household, in the domestic violence, which is at an all-time high, we just recently heard all about that from the FBI, about hate crimes in this country have gone way up. On and on it goes. Now, I'm sorry to lay out all this negative stuff, but you hear it all the time. I'm not telling you what you haven't heard on television or elsewhere. And I'm also not inviting you to pretend it doesn't exist or ignore it. I'm inviting you to embrace something more powerful. During some of the riots last year in Black Lives Matter movement, and I really supported that movement. I did not support the violence that went on. I supported the idea that Black Lives Matter. Because until Black lives matter, all lives can't matter, because all lives include Black lives. All lives matter, but Black lives must matter first because they have been ignored and pushed aside. And you know, the reality here, the truth here, the deeper idea here is that it is the latching on to. Anyway, I got off my track. The point from that part is simply that when that was going on, I had a friend who said to me, I defy you to tell me that your protest, your fight in the streets is more powerful than my prayer. And that's my point. All of that needs to happen for those people who seem to need to do it. For those of us who understand spiritual principle, we need to recognize that the power of faith, the power of our prayers, the power of life within us, moving through us, is the very power of God. And that has more power than all of that fighting and all of that pushing against and all of that making wrong out there. And as long as you and I don't participate in it, or we forgive ourselves for those moments when we might, then there is great hope for us, for the world, and for a whole new beginning to happen. But it depends upon us and many like us, not just those in Science of Mind or those in New Thought, but all of those faithful, prayer-focused people, to turn to the power within them and operate from that power to declare the beloved community for all. And I want to share and talk a little bit about what's the content. What does a beloved community really look like, the way that Dr. King talked about it? And that is, first of all, we must recognize and honor the image of God in every human being. Now, this is bigger than just saying namaste. We do that, and it's a beautiful thing in many teachings. And it's interesting how that was such a prevalent thing about 10 years ago in our movement and other movements. It actually comes from the Middle East. It comes from the ancient yogis, to recognize the God in me honors and recognizes the God in you. I mean, it's a loose translation, but that's close. But it's that, and it's more. Not in some abstract way, but in a very real way. Because the more we recognize and honor the God in each other, the bigger and louder and stronger that God is going to show up in each other. If I can see the good in you, no matter who you are, then that good is going to show up. Because good and power and the God within you is what's wanting to express. It is the natural flow of things. And all that other fighting against and being against and having other stuff show up in your life isn't normal. What is the normal flow is God within you to the outward. And so the more I recognize it, the more I am helping to activate what is naturally trying to happen in me and in each other. Because when I can recognize and see it in you more strongly, I can recognize it and see it in me more strongly as well. And I can make decisions accordingly. Next, we must exhibit personal authenticity. Be your truth. Tell your truth. Your deeper truth, your real truth, not your reactionary truth. Not the fighting truth that comes out, but that deeper truth. Your personal authenticity. Your true respect. Not just pretending, not just saying, oh, I see the God in you. It's with a very deep respect for that other person. And validation of one another. a deep sense of validating one another. Living in this beloved community means two more things. The third one is that we see the truth in love and speak your truth in love, always considering ways to be compassionate with one another. Speak your truth in love to be compassionate to one another. Rather than attacking, rather than criticizing, rather than jumping to what's wrong with you, I see the God in you, but this is, I see the God in you, and I see love trying to express itself. I see love showing up as you. I see how much you care about your family. I see how much seeing and speaking truth, your truth, in compassion and love towards one another. And then we must find ways within us to blend our faith in God, our faith in truth, our faith in who we are and what Spirit is, with the action to generate a commitment to creating a world that works for everyone. Some of you will be motivated by your faith to get involved in one movement or another. Instead of stepping over that homeless person, you'll want to get involved in helping them return to a life that is important and meaningful and manageable to them, at least to get them safe and off the streets. Or you may be drawn or pulled to build systems to help people have a better experience, kind of like Barbara is called to do that testifying with the state legislature to help people who want homes to be able to get them when they have lived in such difficult situations that they don't have down payments. Part of that world of being pulled apart, the haves and the have-nots. Perhaps you'll find your place to bring great good to someone by cooking for them. When I was sick last month, I appreciated the folks who did that for me. Chicken soup, man, it goes a long way to bringing good into someone's life. I don't know what the thing is you are called to do or pulled to do, or your faith says you need to be committed to create a world that works for everyone. But you do. And it may simply be a call to prayer, be a call to treatment, a call to standing in the truth, always, that there is more to life, more to us, more to the world of beingness than what has yet been expressed. The beloved community is very possible and is already happening. I see it among some of our community, our spiritual community here, where there's a beloved community that is supporting one another, and from and through us supporting others beyond just this immediate community, where we're looking beyond seeing just the here and now and the immediate, but to what the longer run, the bigger picture is. The beloved community does exist already in pockets all over the world, not just in this place. The beloved community is your community if you choose to make it your spiritual practice, to do all of those things, to recognize and honor the image of God in each person, to exhibit personal authenticity and true respect to other people, to speak your truth in love, always considering what is great, to be passionate for one another, and to blend your faith with your action to generate a commitment to a world that works for everyone. See, in the very act of doing that, you're transcending your immediate experience, your immediate place. Finding the love within all that is going on is a way to transcend and rise up and include more and more of life into your life. And that can only mean a greater life experience for you, and a greater experience of joy and love and freedom and prosperity and all these things we talk so much about. And that is your birthright. That is what you deserve. Because you're wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And so am I. And so it is. Take a deep breath, bring that in, breathe it in, and know this with me if you so choose. There is within me a life already, alive and well, that sees and knows beyond my immediate circumstances, that knows beyond my immediate reactions to the world going on around me, and sees more deeply into the place of love and the power of love that I bring into every situation. There is that within me which recognizes that there is something for me to know and something for me to do, and I am open and willing to do it because it cannot lead to anything except greater joy and greater freedom for myself and the world. There's no sacrifice talked about here. There is no pain and suffering. This is about embracing the greater truth for me and being willing to forgive myself for the past. I let go of what was, and I embrace what can be. And I am willing to take the risks, to choose the greater me, the greater truth, trusting that the God within me, as within each one, can bring forth in life, my life, this life, God's life, the world's life, a greater experience of truth, a greater experience of love, and a greater experience of the beloved community as visioned by Martin Luther King Jr. and so many more. It is with this truth that I open my mind and my heart to allow the revelations from within me to guide me, to direct me along this path. And I am committed to daily living and practicing the truth within me, that all may benefit and that I may benefit in a life of freedom. Knowing this is the truth, knowing this is what's for me, accepting the parts that matter, letting the rest go, I trust this is now the mind of God, and I let that God that is love bring to me that which is for me. In this truth, I release this now, letting it be so. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. If anyone is offended by my words or what you may perceive as politics, I wasn't thinking politics. I was thinking spirituality. And I don't apologize for any of it. I trust that it will stir you in some way to make you think more deeply and to reach more into the truth of who you are as it expresses out into the world. To hear more about our center and how to support us, we'll turn it now back to Barbara Guillory.
Wow. Thank you, Reverend Bob. That message was absolutely moving for me. And as you said, it does cause you to look within. And I especially want to say thank you for this beloved community, for the high regards, the space that you've created here for us to be in a beloved community. You have maintained this for us, and I'm grateful, and I'm certain I speak for everyone else. We're all grateful to you for maintaining our beloved community, because this is where we can experience the love, we can experience the support, we can experience the presence of the divine, and we certainly thank you for your leadership. So what we would like to do at this point is give thanks. I like that each of you would affirm in your own belief your prosperity along with me. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow. And all that I share with life returns to me, multiplied abundantly. And so it is. If you would like to give online, we have the website that you can go to. If you would like to mail, the mailing address is available as well. Or if you have questions, please reach out, give us a call, or send us an email. We're more than happy to have a conversation with you as prosperity continues to support us. Prosperity continues to surround us. Prosperity continues to manifest in our lives. And for this, we are thankful. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for being with us. We're so glad you were here. Also want to just quickly say that coming up later in September, we will be reinstating our Wednesdays, our wonderful Wisdom Wednesdays, and too many W's in there, I think, but Wisdom Wednesdays for sure. Looking at basic spiritual principles, sharing and talking about them from 7 to 8 o'clock, 1 hour Eastern time for an hour. You're welcome to join. There's no charge. And when you watch our newsletter to see the exact date and time when it actually begins.
And it's time for everybody's favorite fun game, announcements. Hey, stay in touch with the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown through our newsletter. Get one email a week letting you stay informed. And please subscribe when visiting YouTube to our YouTube channel. Those subscriptions go a long, long way. And while you're on your social media, why not give us a like and a share on Facebook? Let your friends know what we're doing. Invite them to come watch our services with you. And join us on our Zoom room throughout the week. We offer a variety of Zoom interaction opportunities each and every week here as part of the Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. 10 a.m. Sundays, our discussion group around the 365 Science of Mind book. Every Sunday, 12 noon Sundays, our community fellowship immediately following our Sunday services. And 12 noon on Tuesday, our online empowerment opportunity. The access information remains the same for all of our Zoom experiences. If you need access, please visit cslmidtown.org and you'll find access information on our website. Join us on any of our Zoom opportunities throughout the week. And while you're with us, be sure to connect with one of our professional practitioners. These are folks that are highly trained to support you along your spiritual journey. You can learn more on our website about our professional practitioners. Just head over to cslmidtown.org, click on About and Practitioners. Then you'll see their bios and a way to reach them and learn a little bit more about each of them. And please send us your prayer requests. Click on the Home tab and look for Affirmative Treatment Prayer Requests. Fill out the form, send it off, and get our professional practitioners praying for you each and every day. All right.
Right now, I would like to invite you to join me for the affirmation of life, which says this: I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding. I am grateful for the life that lives through me. And so it is. See you next week.